Welcome to Revealed Abundance. Today we're going to be talking about spiritual senses.
Right. So we're going to kind of cover what are spiritual senses, what does the Bible have to say about them, and what kind of experiences we've had with them.
Right, not all of them because that would take all day, but just like one or two with each one. So so if we have natural senses, we know that we have a soul and a spirit and a body. So if we have a body that has natural senses like seeing and hearing, tasting, smelling, and feeling, we are going to experience those each within our soul and each within our spirit. And so we're going to be talking about spiritual senses today. And this is seeing in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing in the spirit is going to look like maybe you see an angel, maybe you see a demon, and maybe you see God. Maybe and seeing can look different. Seeing could be dreams, could be visions, could be trances, or it could just be seeing an angel, next to you, just like I'm seeing you next to me, with our eyes open in our daily life. And we do have some experiences with that. What's your experience, Susie?
Well, for me, I would say there's a couple of senses that are pretty dominant for me, and one of them being seeing. Not necessarily like I see you, but seeing things that are in the spiritual realm. Trying to decide which one I want to talk about. They're all very awesome and not weird at all. But seeing and this was something that Alicia, she saw as well, and then I saw it later. Like driving down the road, there's this purplish blue light that goes ahead of my car, and I know that it's protection from God as I'm driving. It's not there naturally. I know it's His protection because He told me. I've had a couple experiences where I'll be driving and I'll invite Jesus to sit with me and talk with me, and then I can sort of not see like with my natural eyes, but it looks a little bit different. I call it interference, kind of like heat rising from asphalt, and I'll see Jesus in my passenger side seat, which is pretty cool because it just means that I get to sit there and talk with Him more, and it's just a nice time for Him and I to talk, and I enjoy that. It's something that He and I enjoy doing together.
Yeah, I think for me, for my seeing, sometimes I will see with my natural eye in the natural world, the spirit world as well. And sometimes, you'll see colors or angels or demons or God or even things. I've seen, trees or fountains and, different things. And I do see things in visions or, with my eyes open, which would be called an open vision. I do dream a lot. You dream a lot. And I will see in my mind's eye as well, or even with my eyes closed. So,
and we see this in the Bible in Ephesians, and we hear that song a lot. Like it was big when we were younger. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord.
Yeah.
Ephesians, it talks about, I pray that your eyes might be opened, the eyes of your heart would be opened, and they're talking about spiritual eyes, not because your heart literally does not have eyes. He's making a spiritual reference to the eyes of your heart.
Right, absolutely. And then, a verse that we want to use, really, we kind of jumped ahead, but a verse that we'd like to use here for exercising our spiritual senses, and that it's good and appropriate to operate and, experiment and exercise your spiritual senses is Hebrews 5, 18? Or no, 13? 14. Sorry, I had my phone out and it didn't have the address on it. And it's this: but solid food is for the mature, for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil. I love that. I love powers of discernment trained by constant. I love that word, constant practice to distinguish good and evil. And so if you can see in the spirit, it's not just so you can know where the bad stuff is. You can also know where all the good stuff is too. And we have a lot of fun experiences with that, but we'll move on to what's the next one that you've got here?
Taste.
I love this one. This one is so fun. When I had my encounter with Jesus in the episode where I'm talking to you about just my testimony, when he breathed in me, it was amazing because all of a sudden this taste came into my mouth, and I had this taste in my mouth for like a few weeks. It was like this metallic, or like, it's almost like a diet soda taste. I don't know how to really explain it, but it was like this real metallic taste. And it just was amazing. And then there's times where, you know, I've tasted like honey or different things, you know, on the tip of my tongue or on my lips, and I'm like, I didn't have anything with honey. So, you know, God does do things in the natural that you can or does things in the spirit that you can experience in the natural. So
we see it in the Bible. We see it in a few actually different places. One of them in Psalms, taste and see that the Lord is good. Happy are those who take refuge in Him.
Right. Right.
But that's a little more concretely Ezekiel and John. So Ezekiel in the Old Testament and John in Revelation had similar experiences where God told them to take the scroll and to eat it.
Right.
And when they ate it, it turned to honey in their mouth.
Right.
It wasn't a literal thing, it was a spiritual thing. They spiritually ate the scroll, and it spiritually tasted like honey.
Right, absolutely. So that is a very real thing that you can encounter and experience with the Lord. So that's really fun. What's the next one we have on the list? Feeling. This is a really fun one. And a lot of people have this, you know, feeling. Feeling is like an experience that we had together. We were taking a walk one time, and I felt like something was behind me and her, because we were walking side by side. And then I would hear something too, and I would kind of turn around, and I would look, and I wouldn't see anything, and then, you know, I could feel something walking behind us, and I could also hear something walking behind us, and every time I kept turning around, she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, oh, no, nothing, it's fine, and we'll just keep talking." And so we talked, and then we ended up coming back around where we were walking back to our house, and I'm still feeling something walking behind us. And then we come by this building that had windows, like cascading windows across the building, and all of a sudden she turned and looked, and she was like, "There's a man standing right behind us." And, you know, we turned around and looked, and there's not anything there. But what's really funny is after she had said that, and I turned around, and then I saw him, and I said, "Oh, that's just the enemy." I said, "Let's just ignore him, and he'll go away." And as soon as we said that, he left like that. I mean, so, you know, and there's another situation that we had where we were at a worship conference together, and I'm kneeling on the floor, and I got my hands raised because I'm worshiping, and I feel this person walking next to me, and they pass me, and so, because I'm kind of out in the aisle, because I don't like to be confined when I worship, I like to move around.
But you couldn't have guessed that.
Right. And so I'm worshiping on my knees like this, and I literally turn like this so that they can go around me, and I turned and looked to see who it was, and there was no one there. And I was like, "Oh, that's odd." And then while she was doing that, I had my eyes closed and worshiping, but I was standing, and I like personal space. I have a bubble that I like to keep people out of, but I could feel somebody like right next to, and we'll use this example, it was over here, like right next to my shoulder, and I thought it was her, and I was about to turn around to tell her to get away from me. This is true.
just to move a little bit further away. And when I looked, it was not her, but it was a figure that had like a gray mask on. And I remember it was standing right here. And then when I looked at it looked at me. I of course started freaking out on the inside. On the outside, I think I just prayed. But on the inside, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
This was in the beginning.
Yes.
When God was first, like,
Yes.
training us. So.
And then whatever it was, it looked forward again and continued to walk into the crowd ahead of us.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about it later and confirmed each other's stories. I was like, she was like, something weird happened. Something walked between us, but there was nothing there. I'm like, I saw it! Right at
So
me.
she saw it, and I only felt it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I didn't actually see it, but I could feel it as if it was a real something. I thought it was a real person, but it wasn't. She thought it was a real person, and then looked, and it wasn't. And then we prayed to the Lord afterwards, and he was giving us some things to pray about through that service and some different things. So God did some really fun stuff there. But he was really good to confirm it within both of us. And you know, we were able to feel what was going on, and then we were able to take it to the Lord, and then God was able to give us some fun answers to, you know, pray and release and different things like that. So that was really fun.
And feeling can also be like when you pray for somebody and they get, like, for healing, and they get really warm where you're praying for them. Like, that is a spiritual feeling.
Or goosebumps. Sometimes when people are telling you a good God story and you get the goosebumps, God's like, hey, I really want to confirm this in you because she's telling you the truth, or I want you to pay attention to something here. So it's really important to you know, pay attention to that kind of thing, because God speaks in so many different ways. It's not always in words, and it's not always English. So so that's really good too. Sometimes people feel the presence of the Lord so much they go down in the spirit, you know. Or one time I was laying on the floor, and I literally felt smashed to the floor. And there was such this weight just on me, and I was like trying to get up, and I could not get up. But you know, so there's all different kind of ways to feel the Lord, to feel his presence, to feel his angels, to you know, even to feel the enemy, and to know, and then to ask God, you know, what is this, or what do we do, or you know, why are you revealing this to me now? So that he always has a strategy, he always has a plan, and he always has something to teach us. So
and how did Jeremiah feel the Lord?
Right, and he took a coal and he pressed it to his lips, right? Yeah.
That's in Jeremiah, first
Yeah.
chapter Jeremiah.
Right. So the next one is
Hearing.
We kind of touched on this a little bit
Yeah.
with, you know, that guy that I had heard the footsteps of something walking behind us. But, you know, we can hear the Lord. We can hear angels. We can hear demons. We can hear, sometimes we can hear people. You know, there's times where I'll look at Susie and I'll be like, I think they just were thinking this. You know, and she'll be like, actually, I thought I had that same thing. And so, you know, God will let you, like, perceive what someone is thinking or feeling. Jesus, he could think and know what people were feeling. He had perceived the Pharisees and what they were thinking multiple times in the New Testament. And I think even with Nathaniel, right? Or Nathan, was his name Nathan? Or the one under the tree. And he calls him there's no deceit in you. He says that to him. Oh.
Sure.
Well, one of you might know that story. And so those are things that Jesus perceived. So we can also perceive and hear from the Lord. And so sometimes it's like audible, like in the Bible where God says to Jesus, you are my beloved son, you know, my faithful son. and Jesus is getting baptized, and then some people heard it as thunder, some people thought an angel, and then some people heard it correctly. And so sometimes there is a little bit of confusion on what that sound is or where it came from, but it's audible enough for more than one person to hear it. Sometimes it's like what I call an inner audible. You can hear it as if somebody's talking to you, but nobody else around you can hear it. And then there's times where someone will speak. I call this the donkey speaking, where Balaam's donkey begins to speak to him. And, I was at a grocery store one time, and I had asked God this question like 2 years prior. And I'm coming around the bend, and I'm seeing this ruggedy, kind of homely looking man, and he's grabbing beer case after beer case and putting it in his cart. And I had come around, and it's at the end of the aisle where there's more space, because there just is. And so I had plenty of room, but I had come around, and as I'm passing, like coming up on him to pass him, he looks straight at me and says, "I see you." And I could feel God's voice on his voice. And I knew he wasn't God, obviously, but I could feel God speaking through him. And he would say it again, and he said it again. And I thought, this is really odd, for someone just to be like, "I see you, I see you, I see you," And, he was really driving the point home, but I knew that was God's voice. And so sometimes God can speak through someone, and that was just, God ended up talking to me about something personal that I had asked him like a while ago, and that was his way of getting my attention. And so that was really kind of neat. And sometimes he can speak through other Christians through prophecy too, So, Susie a lot of times has, had prophecy for me or something and has spoken to me, and I'm like, that's God. I can feel God's voice on that. And so, God can speak through many different things, whether it's an animal or a person, saved or unsaved. Or he can talk to you inaudibly or audibly, or even that still small voice. I don't like to put a lot of emphasis on the still small voice because so many churches believe that that's the only way that God can speak to you, and I don't believe that. So, as far as like hearing goes, and so I still value that still small voice. It's very important, and we need to learn how to listen to it, but it's not the only way that you can hear him.
Right.
So, and the hearing scripture is John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice," and we do hear him, and you can hear him.
Yep.
So,
and the last one we want to go over is smell.
yes.
We hear it talked about in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, the fragrance of the Lord. It's actually in there quite a few times, the fragrance of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. I think 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, while I don't have really any personal experiences with that, I know Alicia does, so I'm going to let her tell her story.
So, I have quite a few experiences with smelling in the spirit, and that's just a discernment gift, and so I'll just kind of tell you. So in my encounter, a lot of things happened in my encounter, in my testimony that I had told you guys, whatever video session that was. But in that, when he had puffed into my nostrils, at the same time, I was filled with this absolutely amazing, it was like a white lily, really crisp, really exotic, very strong, beautiful fragrance. And I've never really smelled anything like it, except for when God gives that smell, and it's just so amazing. And sometimes when people spend a lot of time with the Lord, and I'll come up to them and I'll hug them, and I'll be like, "Hey Susie, it's been a while," and I'll hug them, I can actually smell the fragrance of the Lord on them, because 2 Corinthians 2:14 says that we diffuse the fragrance of Christ. And so that's something very biblical, and that can happen. And it's a very spiritual thing that you can experience naturally. And so, I can smell it on people. Sometimes, there's been times in my life where I've just kind of hit rock bottom and I'm crying out to the Lord. I'm like, God, I just need you here. And I just remember this time I was in my truck and I was driving home and I'm just bawling. And all of a sudden this fragrance comes. And I was reminded, yes, He is here. He's listening. He really cares about this. And so sometimes it's a comfort. Sometimes I had this really unique situation happen where this angel walked up to me and he was holding this silver platter and he had different flowers on this silver platter, and he would take a flower and he would go like this in front of my face and I would smell this fragrance, and then he'd place it on the platter, he'd pick up another one and he'd go like this and I'd smell another fragrance. And so that was kind of really interesting. And then there's been situations where I've prayed for people to receive the fragrance of the Lord, and then they did, right then and there. So I think that might be something fun to do today, is pray for your senses to be opened. And we're just going to ask God for them. So go ahead and pray with me. God, I just thank you that you're a good God, that you're a good dad, and that you want to give me good things. And I'm going to just posture myself to receive from you. I am asking for my spiritual senses to be cleansed so that I can exercise them. And I just ask for you to come over and just open my spiritual senses up to you, Jesus. I consecrate them to you, Lord God. And I pray that you would help me to see, that you would help me to smell, that you'd help me to taste, that you'd help me to hear, and that you'd help me to feel your presence, your way, your what you're teaching me and wanting me to learn. God, and I just release a special anointing over people so that they can experience the fragrance of the Lord, that they would begin, that their spiritual nose would be opened up, and that they could smell your fragrance, and that they could hear you, that they could see you, and that it would fill them with so much joy and comfort to know that you are tangibly there, that you're right there with them, and that you're a good dad who wants to experience things with them and teach them really good, fun things. So,
thank you, Alicia. And thank you for joining us again today, and give us a like and a subscribe and a share. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.